So happy. I think it's been almost a year we've been trying for this one.
It's
6 months, a
very
year.
long time. Yeah, a very long time.
Seriously. So I found the blind redhead on TikTok. It seems to be where I found most of my new people to interview. And one of the things I love about your channel, and by the way, if you are on TikTok, or I don't know what other mediums you're on, we'll go through that in a minute, but go follow. It's hilarious, amazing, great disability content, hilarious disability content. Also some
Thank you.
great stuff on music and wine and travel. It's a wonderful channel. I wanted to talk to you about one of the things I was noticing because I went through like a deep dive of all of your videos. And when I started using a wheelchair, I was like, how do people not know what to do? How do you people not know to not walk in the middle of like crosswalks and stuff? And then I'm like, oh, I didn't either until I started using a wheelchair. Looking at your videos has been a very humbling experience for me and realizing how much I do not know. So I thought we would start there. You have a series called Accidentally Accessible, which is one of my favorite. Like I have a few of favorites of your series, but that one's one of my favorite. Can you tell me a little bit about how it came about?
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny that series is pretty new. There's just a couple of videos, but I have a few lined up. But that series came from really just looking around at the world and being like, sometimes good design equals accessible design. But then there's also some funny things that pop up that you're like, that's an accidentally accessible thing. Like a video that I have queued up in the future is for an accidentally accessible coffee mug. So like for me, if I'm drinking coffee, if the inside of the mug is white, then I can actually see where the liquid is before it hits the edge. But if the coffee mug is black or a dark color, I can't see the edge. And so that's just one of those things. It's like, oh yeah, that's accidentally accessible. And so it's just funny because there's all these things that I've just always said that. I've always had that kind of perspective of like, oh, this is an accidentally accessible item or thing in my life. And so that's just kind of where that series came from, where I was like, I don't think people realize that some of the great accessible items that are in their life are just not necessarily made to be accessible, but are accidentally accessible.
It's one of those things where I wish more companies would start to think this way, because universal design, if you start from there, you and I can use it. And then people who don't have, I call them pre-disabled, because everyone's going to join us. Like, I'm going to make this happen. This is a Gretchen Wiener fetch is going to happen. I will keep calling them pre-disabled because I want this to get through the head. You are going to join us. You are either one of us, you will join us, or you will age into us. You're either going to have a bad day or you're going to age into it. And if we can get people to start understanding that, they'll realize that you just start with universal design.
Yes.
And then it's convenient.
I've found like, a lot of times, accessibility for one is accessibility for all. And so you just end up with, when something is designed in a way where you're looking at multiple perspectives and actually want to create something that's good, then that really opens up the door for everybody. And, it's just, people will find helpful things as they go through their life when they go, oh, I didn't know that about, for example, I think making text larger I use Apple products. So like making a text larger on an iPhone, I'm finding that a lot of older individuals, as their eyesight starts getting worse, they start coming to me, how do you see your phone? And so you end up with situations where it's like, they're asking me how to do the thing that they don't know how to do, because they're like, I can't see that well anymore. Well, how does that blind guy do it? So,
That's what I love about your content, is that your content is, forgive this, but accessible.
Yeah,
it's
thank you.
Fun. It's easy to understand. Also, I'm definitely one of those people who are getting older, and I am shocked how much I'm using my phone to see instructions.
Yeah.
Oh, how did we get here? How did that happen?
Absolutely.
We will absolutely talk about Apple versus Android, because I feel like there's one very clear winner, but I would love to hear your viewpoints. But I'd like to talk a little bit more about the series. Is there anything in the series that you're like, that was awesome? I'm surprised that was accidentally accessible. And is there some products that you would like to see become more accidentally accessible?
So there is one, it's not up on the channel yet, but I have found that my slippers are accidentally accessible, purely because walking around, I bump into a lot of things. And so my slippers really accidentally protect my toes on purpose. And so I find that
Slippers. I love
Yeah.
it. Doc Martin slippers. My Gen
So
X friends. Let's go.
yeah, so that's like the one for me where I'm like, that is hilariously accidentally accessible, and it's just slippers. But then yeah, I think other things that I would like to see accessible, I think fortunately technology has helped this one a lot. But for example, I can't read text on paper anymore, really, like specifically black text on white papers. Having more access for people to have different options, specifically on kiosks. If you ever see a kiosk where you want to, at an ATM, or even just, a lot of restaurants have kiosks now in the fast food areas, or just those types of situations, you'll notice that every single one of them is designed with a white background with black text. And dark mode is one of those things that absolutely changed my life across platforms when I could access or implement dark modes. And so I think the funny thing is sitting there going, I understand that a lot of people use the default white background with black text. And that actually, for some people, might be the better choice. But for me, it's not necessarily the best choice. So finding more dark mode options out in the real world would be a very helpful adjustment. However, I will say there are other accessibility features that I then end up tapping into because of the lack of dark mode, like voiceover on different devices or machines.
How do you feel about the voiceover? Like, is that something that is like, you're like, there's could be some improvements here, people. It's a necessary evil, but there could be some improvements.
I have been, I am definitely in a situation where I'm not having to use voiceover on a regular basis, but it definitely needs some work. Sometimes, I've had situations where you are able to, specifically as a blind low vision individual, you're able to uh, work the muscle of being able to listen to things really, really fast. And so sometimes you'll hear blind low vision people listening to something on their phone, and the average person might be like, how in the world are you understanding what you're listening to? But like any other muscle, that's what it is you're flexing that muscle. So you have a lot of people who are utilizing voiceover in the way where it's like it works for them. But oh my goodness, sometimes like I feel like technology specifically is too far adapted for us to be sitting here with the same type of robotic voiceover voices, specifically in the default accessibility systems. And also, there was one time I was trying to access a voiceover system. I couldn't even get through the how-to of the voiceover system because it was so complicated, and I couldn't get to the next step. And it was like, press this button, and then I just find myself like completely just touching everything on the screen, and then I just got frustrated. And fortunately, I have a sighted person in my life, and so I was like, can you help me, please? Like, I love my independence, but I also recognize that this wasn't made for me or really anybody, so will you just help me, please? So yeah, voiceover needs a lot of work.
One of the things I love, we could talk Apple too. One of the things I noticed immediately as I'm an Apple girl, like I've been since they started. I am that old, and I remember the first Apples that. Yes, not the first actual apples. I was not there for that. But, gray hair is here. One of the things that I loved is recently, I think the last time I got an iPad, when I opened it up and I started it, it talked to me. It started with like, it instantly started talking me through each of the things. So I didn't even have to like, if I was someone with sight disturbance, I wouldn't have even had to start looking up how to. They were already starting with this. And I'm like, absolutely. This is, thank you. Mean, there's definitely issues with Apple as a company. Believe me, I get it. But the thing about being disabled is I feel like we are the ultimate test case for harm reduction. Like I hate generative AI with every fiber of my being. Do I have to use it sometimes? Yeah, I do. Yep. And that's just kind of how stuff has to go. And I feel like we're always doing the harm reduction of like, yes, Amazon sucks. Can I drive? No. So
no. Yep. Yeah, I know. It's always that balance, right? Of figuring out like there is that. I love that term, harm reduction. Like it's such a good term. And there is that balance though.
Seriously.
And especially in where we're going, where I'm like, are we boiling all the lakes with artificial intelligence? Probably.
Is giving everyone cancer.
Is every company deciding that this is what we have to do and use now? And you're like, I guess. And so there's that line, and I will say, like, as that is also the pull too, because you're like, okay, I have this great I have this technology where you have generative AI where you're like, okay, are we stealing art from artists? Absolutely we are. Like the internet is being scraped with from artificial intelligence. And then on the other side of the spectrum, you do end up having a lot of artificial intelligence that is making things more accessible in technology for a lot of people. And
There was no way I was ever going to be able to sit there and type out captions,
yeah,
but I have to
oh my
use that
goodness.
for the podcast. Like,
Way back when I was in when I started film school, one of our classes was we just had to sit there and use something called live type, and it was literally
oh
where you would
God, yes,
just
yes.
transcribe it.
And the transcriptions were varying accuracy,
Yeah.
but always
Yeah.
entertaining.
Yeah. Gosh. Yeah. It was like playing a game of telephone with a computer. It was impossible.
It's the stuff I remember from this world. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
I want to just take a little bit of a step back because we didn't discuss what you have. And I think that, like, when we say disability, everyone's like, oh, a wheelchair, this. And, when it comes to blindness, like, I was very surprised when my friend got macular degeneration on
Mm-hmm.
the varying degrees
Yeah.
of sight disturbances. If you feel comfortable, like, what is it that you are working with, and what are some of the things that might surprise people about your sort of everyday life or your prognosis is?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Because you have like two that are not usual together, right?
Yes,
like,
that's yeah, and I just revealed that on my channel, which I will go into a deep dive eventually here on the channel. But yeah, so I have two eye diseases. One is inherited called retinitis pigmentosa, which basically over time mine is a non-aggressive version. So over time it depletes the peripheral vision. And then I have another eye disease that's very rare in general, and even more rare. There's actually very few, if not any, actual documented cases of these two diseases existing together. So the other one is called Coates disease.
well, congratulations.
I know. I literally
Well done, sir.
I remember being at a doctor's appointment and telling them, yeah, I have these two eye diseases, and they're like, okay, we'll see. And then he looks in my eyes and he goes, well, congratulations, you're literally 1 in a million, if not a billion.
We all want to be special.
But yeah, Coates disease kind of disrupts the center vision of the eye. So I have a disease that does the peripherals and a disease that does the center. And so fortunately, I have had probably 60 to 70% of my vision for a lot of my life. But over the last few years, my right eye kind of took a dive and Coates disease resurfaced. And I probably have about 20%, maybe 15% of vision left in that eye, and maybe about 40 to 50% of vision left in my left eye. So I can function. A lot of times I can function without a cane. I do bring my lovely sighted person along with everywhere we go. And so
your emotional support person.
Yes. And, a lot of times I don't even have to use a cane with her because we have hand signals so as we're walking, there's a hand signal for a curb, there's a hand signal for a stop, there's a hand signal for a go. So and people just think we're holding hands, but really we have an entire communication system that's happening that people don't even recognize.
That is downright romantic. That is the sweetest, most romantic accessibility hack I have ever heard. I love that.
Romantic accessibility might be a next series. Yeah.
Tell me that would be a great for like book talk. Like, tell me that would not be a great title for like a new romantic book talk.
I'm into it. But
we don't even have to put the demon boyfriends in. We could just have it be like a sweet one.
Yeah, right. I love that. But yeah, so I do have a lot of vision, and I grew up with I have some vision, but I grew up with a lot more vision than I have now. So it was really interesting growing up, having a lot of the same kind of accessibility issues that I have now, except they're just a little worse now. Like, for example, in school, growing up, I didn't necessarily have, excuse me, I didn't necessarily have like a screen reader, or, oh my gosh, what are those things called? They're like projectors. Oh my gosh, I should know the name of these. I used one like twice, but they basically project. They're a little projector that you have a screen next to you, and then it's projecting what's on the board. CTV, I think it might be called a CTV, but I digress. But I used to have to, while in school, I'd always have to sit in the front row of a classroom just to get as close as I possibly could. After class, I would have to go up to the board and like sit on the floor or hold my pencil on the chalkboard and like be writing on the chalkboard of what the notes I was supposed to have, or borrow notes from other people. But again, white paper with black text wasn't always my friend. And so I think with my eye disease, fortunately, I weirdly enough, as my vision got worse, I was like, oh, I'm still blind. Like a lot of the things that I do, I'm still blind. And so the adjustment period was not as significant as someone who might have had full sight in the beginning of their life, and then as they get older, they start losing sight. So it's not hasn't been as big of an adjustment for me specifically. But yeah, so I do have some vision, and I so appreciative of that vision. I literally do a grateful exercise every day where I'm like, I'm thankful for the vision that I have. Because I know that on the spectrum, as RP, retinitis pigmentosa, as that goes further into my life, that will constrict. And I've seen that in my family as well, where, as they get older, excuse me, as they get older, they lose more and more vision. And eventually it's just like a pinhole. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. But eventually more deep dive into those things. And again, if you happen to have retinitis pigmentosa or coats, find me. I want to be friends. I want to start a
Right?
2-person.
Like, it's so wild when sorry, my family just got home, and
Oh, no
of
worries.
course, hey, nothing ever happens here until everything happens all at once.
No
The joys
worries.
of disability, which you look really young to me. I don't know how old you are, but I'm almost 50. And like, I remember when we first started to be able to have laptops, and like, that was insane to me. And they were also 10 pounds. So for
Ah,
all of us who had like I have Ehlers-Danlos, so I dislocate every day, all the
right.
time. That's my disability. And I remember in school, like, God, there's certain things that could be done that would make life a lot easier.
Yeah.
Especially like, the idea that all the kids are healthy and can get to and from a classroom in 5 minutes. Go with everyone running around and your canes. Sure, fun,
Yeah.
good times had by all. Also, the ability to do text to speech would have saved me. I remember, like, after
Hmm.
finals, having to pull my pencil out of my hands because my hands wouldn't open. It was
Oh,
like, it was
wow.
just so painful. So I'm wondering, like, for you, like, when you were in school, and now that you're looking back with all the technology, like, I'm watching my daughter get to like use like
Yeah.
even not even disability stuff. Like, I was an English major, and we would have to take like little 2x4 cards for our
Oh, yeah.
papers, and we
Oh,
would have
yeah.
to write the quote, write the page number, write the author of the book, and then
Yeah.
I would have the entire living room with just covered in these notes while I was like moving around to like plan out the book or the paper. And she's like, "So we have this thing called technology, mom." My God.
uh,
So I was just wondering for you, like, what are some of the things you're seeing now that are available that would have helped you through? I was a teacher too, so I'm always
oh,
fascinated by
amazing.
accessibility and disability. What
Absolutely.
do you see now that you're like, oh my God, that would have been helpful? Thank you.
Yeah.
Little
I,
late, but would
I,
appreciate it. And what would like doesn't exist right now, but you're like, that would be a good thing.
yeah, it's funny. I'm in my late 30s, and so I have had a lot of opportunity to see the transition of technology, specifically in education, a lot. And going from just in high school, I remember specifically high school, nobody had computers. And, now it's required to have a computer in a lot of situations. But I remember specifically going through, I went to 3 different colleges at 3 different times in my life. And so it's funny because as time progressed in technology and in my own education journey, I saw technology become easier and easier for me to use. And so, for example, I'll just use the example I used before. If I went to school now and had access to the accessibility devices, specifically, let's just use the thing that most people have in their pocket, which is, their cell phone. If I had access to that, instead of me going up to the blackboard at the end of the class and writing everything down, I could very easily take a photo with something like the app Seeing AI or Be My Eyes and use that AI, and it would absolutely format it out into a very readable, very accurate now specifically excuse me, very accurate, specifically now, sheet for me to actually utilize and then put into my own system of learning. So, and that's just one example. I have been the kid who in school I had the magnifier glass. Just I had a little round one that I would carry around with me, and I know the moment. It was 2009, and I got my first Mac computer, and I learned that they had a Zoom function, and that revolutionized my entire life and my entire technological journey. And I uh, I wish that in high school I had something that I could just use to zoom in on things, because that wasn't existent. And I know that in future technologies, I do understand, like I am concerned specifically in the critical thinking mode of, we have a lot of access for kids right now to basically let large language models do the thinking or predictive thinking for them. But I will say, having access to that type of technology would have been amazing to even just be like, I mean, I didn't really even have access to, like, I think growing up I had to ask Jeeves, and I would type in like, what, I got to ask Jeeves the question, like, what are other famous blind people? And it'd be like, Helen Keller's a pretty famous one. It's great. And so forever, there's this hilarious.
You get one hero.
Yeah, you get one hero, and that is it. You get one form of representation, and that's it. And she's not only blind, but she's also deaf. And
Bonus point.
And Daredevil. You can have Daredevil eventually. Yeah. But
we
yeah.
don't even need to go there.
Yeah. So I think in the education space, I'm so excited for individuals who do have, specifically from my own experience, I'm excited for people who have blind, low vision accessibility devices that they actually have access to use in educational environments, because it is amazing. And going from my first college where I had to read just textbooks and they didn't have any digital versions, to now, if there's a book that I want, there's one, either a digital version of that book, or two, an audio read version of that book, or three, I can reach out if I really need to. There's now systems where you can either have an AI read something to you, or there's the Braille Institute. They have something called Bard, which is a free resource for blind, low vision people, who you can go and find basically any audiobook that's out there. But if there's not an audiobook covered, they even have some services where they will have people read the book to you and put it on their catalog so you can have access to it if they have the resources and availability for it. So those are things that, I had a physics book that was not at all accessible, and I had to go to the printer. I remember going into the teacher or professor area, go to a printer and be printing off pages and getting it as large as I could. And I would there would be stuff missing from the pages. And they were like, well, you got that question wrong. And it's like, well, that was on the part of the page that I couldn't print. So yeah, so I think overall, that is the thing that I've been obsessed with the most in the educational space, is the access to digital textbooks, the access to the opportunities of having written text put into digital systems where it can be read to me. So yeah, I hope that answers your question. Long-winded.
It does. No, not at all. It's super cool. And one of the things that you touch on is something that I wonder if you experience the same sort of disability tax that I do. One of the things that I did notice, I'm very, very pat on my own back. Thank you very much. One of the things I have noticed for a long time is that there'll be a book version of something where you can digitally, like on like Apple Books or, Kindle, whatever. You can get the books for generally pretty cheap, but then the audio version is like $30. I'm like, how is that legal? Like, that cannot be legal. Like,
no,
it's an ADA issue.
No, it is. It's wild. I liken it to, pizza places charging $2 extra for dairy-free cheese, where you're like, and you end up with, I love the term disability tax. It's very real, because
so to me to see it, very expensive hobby. I really should have chosen a cheaper one.
You're right. Yeah, if only. And well, and that's why I love resources like Bard. Where, hey, look, it's a lot of the same things that something like Audible might have, but it's a free resource. And like libraries are so important, because
Libby.
They have.
Oh my gosh, download Libby.
Libby is amazing.
Libby. Oh my God.
Libby, Hoopla, Canopy. Mm-hmm. Those are all resources that are just absolutely incredible and give.
Free Audible, everyone. Just grab it.
Yeah, it is. And it's absolutely incredible. I love it. But there is. I remember I had to do in 8th grade. I had to read a book, and it's it is taxing. People don't understand how taxing when you're living through your disability, and you're like, for me, reading is very taxing. Fortunately, I can read. Fortunately, I learned to read while I had more vision, but, and I never had to go down the path of learning Braille, but reading can be very taxing. And so, yeah, you're sitting there going, well, I would like an book version of this book. Well, in that time of my life, the only audiobooks you could get were basically on CD, and they would be a pack of, 12 CDs that you had to put in. And I'm walking around with my CD player, and what people think is like, a lot of people are like, are you really reading if you're just listening to it? And you're like, no, I am flexing the same, if not more imaginative muscles and focus. I have to really, you have to like give yourself the opportunity to focus and be in that moment with an audiobook. And so it's funny because it's just, that's just another disability stigma of, well, if you're not doing it the way that an able-bodied person is doing it, are you really doing that thing? So but seriously, resources like, I agree. Go get Hoopla, Libby, Canopy, Bard. It's amazing.
It's one of the frustrations I've had is that when I was more naive about technology, and hopeful and bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, back in the early 2000s, where you're like, look at what the world could be. And then you're like, oh my God, it's being run by sociopathic monsters. Holy
shit. All money. Yeah.
And there was like, my dream was self-driving cars was my dream, because I can drive little bits, but we're getting very close to no. And the idea of having the autonomy and the safety as a woman, as someone who does not necessarily want to get in the car with a stranger, this all felt like really good stuff. And then we got Waymos, and we saw exactly the bullshit that we were dealing with. And we got Teslas that will run over children and also will lock you into a burning inferno. It's just like, I feel like everything like I wanted, I was so excited about, as like, this is on the horizon. Oh my God, everyone. And then they're like, yeah, and here's the worst possible version of it and all the ways we're going to kill you with it. And like, it's so frustrating. Like with the wheelchair community, like we are literally just screaming, hey, can we have ramps? We want ramps. Ramps would be great. Like, hey, you know what you should have? Exoskeletons. And we're like, no, did not know. And then I don't know if you experience this with your own disability, but a lot of times the heads of these companies are not disabled, nor do they spend any time with us. So they are making literally the worst products that are dangerous, and they are not even doing the actual work to really talk to the people with those disabilities, and then understand that you and your blindness is going to be different than someone else with their blindness. And like, these are all things to factor in.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, accessibility for one is accessibility for everyone. So, you just end up, if we had people specifically even just taking other perspectives in that just wasn't their own perspective.
What a shocker.
What a shocker. Yeah, just a little self-reflection goes a long way. And I think there are companies that have invested in that and have created things through those eyes. But I think on the whole, that's not necessarily taken into account for sure.
So here's like a random weird question. How does HIPAA work when you need to have your own medical information read for you from something like AI, where it's going to go to who knows what server somewhere, but these are things you need? And I feel like, especially like for those of us with disability, we have to give up so much of our privacy to get the help we need.
It is interesting. It's a line that I'm always teetering, because I'm a pretty weirdly enough, so I have a content channel, but I'm actually a pretty private person. It is funny because I don't like to send a lot of my personal information out into servers specifically. I think ChatGPT is the easiest example to give, where you're just like, I see people just take full on medical documents, throw them into ChatGPT and be like, explain this to me. And you're like, we don't know what is going on with that
data. World order.
Yeah. And so,
and you remember what Germany used to do to people like us? I really want to be going, hey, New World Order, guess what I am? Disabled.
Yep, exactly. Hi. Absolutely. Yeah. No, unfortunately, that's a very real concern that we have to be sitting here going.
I don't know if you can actually tell from my nose, but those were my people. And I had like that generational trauma right up front.
Yeah, absolutely. So It is interesting. And again, it's how much do you want to trust a company? Because, technically, for example, ChatGPT, they have a mode where it's like it's a temporary storage system. So you can upload personal data and it claims on the temporary mode that it only stores it for 30 days and then erases it, which again,
Why not?
it's like, yeah, sure. It's like, maybe that's true. Maybe it's not. I think that that's specifically why Apple specifically, they highlight privacy a lot because they actually they do lock a lot of that stuff down. And even, there's a reason that Siri specifically isn't as smart as the other robots.
Yeah.
There's a reason. But there's also a reason I prefer Siri is because I know that there's a lot more privacy and security there that's built in. Even though just recently, I think over the last year, Apple implemented, hey, look, we have ChatGPT integration asks before it even pushes it out there. It's like, okay, are you sure? Like this, it's out of our hands. Are you sure? So it is. I am worried.
Harm reduction. I swear.
Yes.
Like we were talking about AI, there are aspects of AI that are brilliant and amazing and will solve some serious problems. The scientific application of, I forget what it's called, not generative AI. It's the not generative AI. It's the parametered AI. I had to do a ton of research for this for a nonprofit I was working on. That stuff is really important and we should be really like working on that stuff. That is what is solving cancer. That is what is solving astrophysics. Like these are really parametered AI, awesome. Generative AI, we get into like a crunchier space. And like things like, the accessibility stuff, I am all for. I think it's really helpful. But I also think that we can do harm reduction with what we allow out to the general public. Like maybe Grok doesn't get to do nude photos of children. That would be a good thing for us to knock that off. We don't have to allow products like generative video AI or generative art AI. Like we could just not offer those and only allow the things
especially without regulation. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Is that there's just no regulation. And so everything is just, of course, this is what Grok is doing. Hello, because there's no regulation. There's no.
And the tone deafness of them blaming it on Grok, that Grok is going to come out and apologize to me. My God, Mr. Musk, go fuck yourself. No one else is going to do it, so go do it for yourself. Sorry, that was rude. I don't care anymore.
Absolutely.
Like, I'm sorry, if you're going to be like a horrible fascist that's going to ruin our privacy, destroy our government, I get to tell him to go fuck himself. I'm tired.
I think Grok will do that for you too.
Maybe that's the next evolution. I was watching CES because I'm obsessed with technology. I always have been. I even ran a disability podcast called Explicitly or Technically Sick, where I talked to tech founders who are solving things. I am shocked at how little they're actually advertising the disability sections on CES. Like all they want to talk about is, hey, Legos have gone AI. And I'm like, the fuck. Here's a robot who will talk to you, gentlemen. I'm like, you could just be human beings and view the other population as human too, and we wouldn't need this. That'd be great. But it's just been like a lot of like weird slop and not a lot of focus on what technology could do or even any level of inspiring. We did get to see that one Braille reader or writer that would go, and I thought that was pretty neat.
Yeah, I was very grateful that you sent that to me because I was looking at it and I love that creator so much. That, and again, it's funny because that is one of my dreams for sure, is to go to CES and
oh my God,
go through
bucket list item.
Seriously, and just go through and find all the accessibility and assistive tech and really be an advocate for that. But yeah, it is interesting where disability isn't cool, like in CES, a lot of the stuff that they push out is like cool things, and so it makes sense to me that a lot of the accessibility or assistive technology or disability tech that is out there isn't necessarily being pushed to the forefront, even though it's pretty significant technology opportunities for people.
And if I see one more healthy person espouse how life-changing this wheelchair will be for someone, I'm going to lose my ever-loving mind. It's so frustrating. So speaking of tech, what are some of the things I watched the whole thing on your Apple shortcuts that you're using, which I still have not figured out how to use correctly. So let me know what some of your favorite Apple shortcuts are. And why Apple versus Android?
Yeah, I posted the video about the shortcuts, and then I got a huge response from people saying, yeah, I want to learn how to do that. And then honestly, it's filmed. I just literally have to edit it together, and I am going to make that a
Yay!
priority to get that, because it is. I realized I was like, oh, this is actually kind of complicated to set up, and so I'm gonna actually set up a situation where I have a Substack, and I'll post the shortcuts. You can just download on Substack, and you don't have to make it, but you can just use it. But I think shortcuts are one of the greatest implementations that I've found, specifically in the digital world. I used to use a program called IFT. I don't know if you've heard of that.
If
It
this
was
then that.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly. Yep. And so I used to use IFT, and then they basically started charging for it, which I get it. Like, people have to make money, but they started charging for, like, just to do some of the more basic things. And eventually Apple released their shortcuts. And I have found some really interesting hacks, basically, or just kind of accessible life changes inside the shortcuts. And like I said, I have a sighted person in my life, and we don't use our devices the same way. And so in my shortcuts video, there, I show that there's a blind redhead shortcut and there's a 2020 shortcut. So anytime, and I have that on both of our phones, I have that on all of our devices. And so anytime I'm like, hey, she'll be like, can I use your phone for a sec? Sure. I'll push the 2020 button for her, or she'll push it herself. And vice versa. And it's just a beautiful thing where it's like, oh, look, this is us coexisting, and it's great. Other shortcuts, I've done some really funny stuff, to even just a shortcut that on a Saturday morning, if I push the shortcut, it will start my coffee maker and play lo-fi jazz music, like, just
That's
to start
brilliant.
the weekend. And so it's just
Those
like,
are the shortcuts I need.
yeah, and it's just, just a smart plug in a shortcut, and that's all it takes. And so, I've even created a shortcut that opens in the daytime. When it's bright outside, I can hardly see my phone. And so I have a shortcut that will open up my camera into the correct mode, so I can film myself outside, and not have to question, is my camera facing me? And I have a newer iPhone. And so I have an action button on my phone, which the action button is where they used to just have the little mute button, but now it's a little button. And so you can click that and actually set a shortcut to activate when you click that action button. So I have my action button set to different things, to do different things at different times of the day. So at night, I might have it set to turn on lights, or, like, specifically, if I'm going to the, in the middle of the night, going to the bathroom, I click my little action button and it lights a path for me as I go downstairs. Or, I'll have a situation where I will want to, like I said, when it's light outside, I'll click my little action button instead of trying to find my shortcut, click my action button, and the camera pops up and it's going. And so there's just little things like that that create the feeling of independence and access. And at the end of the day, I have been an Apple fanboy for a very long time. And the thing that sealed the deal for me for Apple versus any other platform. Now, don't get me wrong, other platforms have slowly created a lot of accessibility features, but Apple, for me, at least for my needs, was first. And in 2009, or 2008, that's when I got my first iPhone, and my life was absolutely flipped upside down. All of a sudden, I had access to a magnifier glass that was on my phone, that I could zoom in with the camera. I had access to a zoom functionality to read things a little easier. And then as technology life has just continued to grow and get better, they have put a lot of accessibility at the forefront. Sometimes it's better than others. I think the most recent update, specifically with Apple, they have a liquid glass. I have to turn off a lot of the liquid glass stuff just to make it a functional space for me to live in, because as pretty as the glass is, it is not a very accessible face. But there's also, with Apple specifically, they have just embedded the idea of good design. And with good design, there's accessibility. And that accessibility lives very openly in the Apple ecosystem. And the most important thing I'm going to say is that it is represented in every single one of their devices. I have a video out there of me trying on an Apple Vision Pro, and that I would love to own an Apple Vision Pro, but $3,500 is really steep for that product. So if you're listening to Apple, one, I would like to try one out. And two, please lower the price to an accessible price point. But overall, when I tried the demo, it was amazing because the way that the Apple Vision Pro works is you have to do a bunch of eye tests because it follows your eyes. But once you kind of get through that, if you're capable, I was fortunate to be capable of doing that eye test. But I did have to have a lot of extra instruction by the fantastic Apple employees who they were like, okay, look to your bottom right. That's where the dot's going to be. Okay, look there. Yep, you're looking at it because they have a screen that they can see what you're looking at. So they're like, yep, you're looking at it. Okay, hold there. Okay, now go to the bottom left. Okay, yep, you're looking at it. Hold there. And then once you're past that test, what was absolutely incredible is the augmented reality where you can see the world in real time, basically real time. But then all of a sudden having access to using my hands to either zoom or using the crown on the headphones to zoom. And I was like, oh my gosh, I can use this device and all of the functionality that is in the accessibility side of all the products, whether it be an iPhone, a Mac, an iPad, whatever, those were all, it looked the same. All of those things looked the same. I could activate dark mode via a Siri command. I could activate larger text via, and honestly, if I had shortcuts and I was signed into my account, my shortcut would be there. Boom, click the blind redhead shortcut. All of a sudden, that entire ecosystem is exactly how I like it on my devices. So that is why I choose Apple versus other ecosystems, is because a lot of the ecosystems that are out there are either not blended together well, or they're just not as familiar to me. So I choose the Apple ecosystem. I know Microsoft has an easy reader system that can be really great and useful. But then, when you go into other things, like I have a PlayStation, and so when I go into the accessibility features of a PlayStation, it's a very different experience than on Apple. And it's a lot more limited. So yeah.
Gaming and site issues is we have with our community, we have a lot of issues with gaming and accessibility with pain, because if I have to move my thumb around a screen, I'm going to dislocate it. If I'm going to play, I have a MetaQuest, because I would love to have that Apple Vision Pro.
Right.
I am on a disability income. That is not saying it's going to happen. While the MetaQuest is a much better product, and it's a better product.
Yeah.
Its functionality and usability is so difficult to figure out. And that's where Apple always excels, is intuitive design. You can pretty much hand it to a 5-year-old or an 80-year-old with very little instruction and they'll get it. The MetaQuest, I've had this thing for like 4 years. I still don't know how to use most of it. And then we're always like talking to the game developers, like, hey, you have these colored balls that you're supposed to hit. It'd be nice if they didn't blend into the background. There's people who have color blindness that this is an issue for. There's, people who are in wheelchairs where we can't stand up. So could you have a way for us to be able to sit or lay down and play this game? Is that possible? So we're always like talking to them about how to develop better. What are you seeing for accessibility for blindness, and what are you hoping they'll bring forward?
Oh my gosh, there's such a lack. I love everything that you said. There's such a lack of accessibility in gaming. And I freak out whenever there's a game that I get to play and experience it in a way where I'm like, this was made with accessibility forward thinking, while also maintaining a lot of the mechanics that other people just enjoy. When I had more vision, I used to love playing sports games. Like NBA 2K or Madden. I used to love playing those games just because it was just an easy, just one-off, whatever. And I can't really play those. I can't play any of the basketball games very much anymore because it blows my eyes out. It's really hard to see. And so it gets frustrating. But I will say, I got Spider-Man 2. The Spider-Man franchise games are absolutely unashamedly the best accessibility that I've ever experienced in a video game. And I know that there's some other games out there that claim accessibility that I have not had the chance to try. But Spider-Man, it was the first game in years that I actually was able to play through the entirety of the game with just utilizing accessibility features. One of the easiest things that people could do in gaming. All right. It's so easy, and Spider-Man does it so well. Is if I press down on one of the analog stick controllers. It takes my camera and it points me in the oops, sorry. It takes my camera and it points me in the direction that I'm supposed to be going. And that is the
Wow.
best accessibility feature I've ever experienced. Because that's a lot of times I'm like, I don't know where I'm supposed to go. Here, let me look at that tiny little map in the bottom corner. Let me get my face up to the map, or let me give the controller to my sighted person and say, hey, can you get me to this place? And so I didn't have to do that. And so it was this really organic experience with the game where I was like, so it's a choice. Games can do this.
They can.
They can do it. They can not only be accessible for blind low vision, like just because you put audio description in a game doesn't make your game accessible. Don't get me wrong, it's helpful and it's great, but that's also like audio description a lot of times is just for the cutscenes. And so there's a lot of there's a lot of games out there that are just like there's a game I want to play so bad, it's called Baldur's Gate.
Yeah.
But it's incredibly inaccessible. Things small.
That's what I
That
heard.
thing's easy. And so it's just like fortunately I'm not a super competitive person and I enjoy watching other people play games. And so there's nights where like I guess I will call it romantically accessible, where my wife will play a video game and I'll watch and enjoy and we'll listen to an audiobook together. And so it's great. So I think for me, there's PlayStation definitely has a lot of the best accessibility options out there, and I love playing video games. But as far as like most video games, I find that they are very much lacking in accessibility. Quick side note about this: there is also with the Spider-Man game. I love this game. I nerd out about it. I love it. They have a companion app. PlayStation does. They have a PlayStation app, and they have a companion game hint setting. So with newer games, that they will show you if you can't figure out how to do something, it will have a video and show you what to do. So I remember a specific level that I was like, I don't know where these things are. Like they're very hidden in the environment. So I got out the PlayStation app and I watched the video and I used the visual cues that are built in the game. I used those to be like, oh, that's where I need to be. And then it would activate whatever the character had to do. And so there's just little things like that where it's like, okay, we're utilizing multiple different pieces of technology. And for me, it's creating an independent experience that a lot of people take for granted when they're playing a video game. A lot, like, I don't do first person shooters. One, I don't enjoy first person shooters, but two, it's like anytime I ever played first person shooters with friends, I was like, okay, go over there, you'll be our decoy. So it's like, great, so I'm the disabled bait, I got it, okay, no worries, it's fine.
You don't have to run fast, you just have to run faster than the slowest person in your group.
Right, exactly. And that was always my rule. So yeah.
Have you heard of Notes on Blindness?
I don't think so.
It's a MetaQuest experience where you get to experience the world as someone with visual disturbance.
Interesting.
It's supposed to be absolutely incredible. I have not played it yet, but it's supposed to be a phenomenal experience to help people understand, and in a way that is interesting. They have a whole bunch of experiences like that. Like they have the driving while black one where you experience going through a sundown town, which is it's basically using virtual reality to create empathy, because I was a psychology, like I majored in literature but also psychology, and one of the only ways we can build empathy in people is through reading books. But this is a new thing where you can actually experience someone else's body and actually like move through the world in a different body. And I'm like, this is such an interesting tool. Like, I want to go back and get my PhD in like psychology, but with
you should.
Like,
absolutely should. I love that for you.
I was this close. I actually applied to Scotland for their chronic pain psychology program, and I'm not healthy enough. So someone else is going to have to pick that one up. One thing I wanted to talk to you about is like we're almost at an hour, and I want to be mindful of your time because I will kidnap you.
Right, I know.
Bad at that. I get lonely and bored, and like you're mine now. Blind Talk. I'm curious, as I'm not a part of that community, but I'm curious if you get help from it, if it's a mixed bag. I know with the chronic pain community, it can be life-saving, sanity-saving, and it can also make you question people. People, why?
Yeah, absolutely.
I was just curious if it's the same thing over there.
No, absolutely. Yeah, thank you for that question. I think Blind Talk is one of the reasons I specifically on TikTok decided to really jump into the creator side, because I think I've seen a lot of positivity in that community, and there's a lot of my growth on my channel specifically has been very slow but very organic. And so, and again, I'm not out there. I'm not trying to be a huge celebrity. I'm trying to create empathetic moments for people and understand my side of the world. And I think the Blind Talk community, there are really some people out there that I have found to be a wonderful part of this community, and people that seem almost inaccessible become accessible because they are willing and, you know, on that side of the community. Now I will also say there's a lot of hurt people on that side too, and I would assume on just kind of everywhere there's hurt people. And so I think that something that was very eye-opening to me in the community was there's a lot of people that are out there when they comment on something or they want to feel heard or seen. There's a lot of hurt there that I definitely feel for them, where they will be like, oh, I can't do this because of this. And that is what the world tells you. You are correct. You are a disabled person that can't do what the thing that an able-bodied person can do. And I think that a lot of the, specifically on Blind Talk, a lot of that community has really shown me that there's been a lot more good than negative. But but again, it can be a mixed bag depending on where you're at in that day or in that time. And so, yeah, it's a beautiful community. I really love it. But I try to expand, you know, out from, as you know, like out from just accessibility content, highlighting music as well. And I've found that there's a lot of love in the music community as well via Music Talk. And yeah, it's a beautiful community. I do love it, but it can be a mixed bag for sure. But I have met some great people on the TikTok side, and that is, TikTok makes it so easy for communities to find each other. It's unlike anything in social that I've ever seen. And I've worked in social media for a very long time, and this is one of the first times that I've really seen a social platform open up opportunities for communities to really connect and find each other.
It's been so frustrating to watch its downfall because it has become my favorite app for meeting people and building community, and then getting a violent extremism strike against me for going, hey, why are you selling that symbol as a necklace and then sending it to everyone's FYP? I thought we agreed that symbol from the 1940s on was a bad idea. And I got a violent extremism strike. I'm like,
that is wild.
Cool. Yeah, and then like all of us creators will go from like, you get like 1,000 views or, you know, however many like views, and then the next week you're like, I couldn't even break 20. Like what? It's just the algorithm dance. Before we go, I always have one question I always ask, and it's thanks to Tim Ferriss. It's anything under $100 that you bought that you were like, yep, that was worth it. Doesn't have to be disability. It's just anything $100. You're like, you know what? That was such a worth it purchase.
Let's see. Anything under $100. I think that's a good question. Okay. I am an audio nerd, and I think the thing that I have bought under $100, it is $80, and it is a little shotgun microphone that I can just pop into my phone's USB-C socket, and it sounds phenomenal. It makes things sound great, and it's just like amazing. I love it. Yeah, it's like a Rode Video Mic ME USB-C, so it's very affordable.
Do you have a favorite headphone? Like, are you an AirPods person?
Yeah, I have several pairs of headphones just because my
noise canceling. What's your favorite noise canceling headphone?
Noise canceling are probably the ones that I'm wearing now, which are these are the Bose QC headphones, where they are just really lightweight. They're Bluetooth. They also offer a wire. You can get them refurbished for like $180, and they're phenomenal. I love buying refurbished products. I actually hate buying products new most of the time, and so refurbished products are the ones that I absolutely love.
I cannot thank you enough for your time. So glad that you were so patient with us getting this all around and together. Great. Come back.
I would love to come back. And then if you don't mind, I would just love to make a little plug for my podcast that just came out.
Okay? You have a podcast? Yay! Yeah. For you. We will have links to this. If you're listening to this If you go over to our show notes, I will have a
Yes.
link directly to his podcast and to anything
Perfect.
else he would like me to have there. So right there.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah, please come and listen to my podcast with one of my great friends. We're called Blind and Brown, and it's a very unique perspective about being blind and being brown. And so, yeah, but thank you so much for having me. This has been fantastic. We're definitely going to need to do this again. And eventually, I think we
Please.
would love to have you over on our podcast. I think that'd be a blast.
I would be honored. I would love it. It'd be nice to have a different perspective on all this.
Yeah, for sure. Well, awesome. Well, thank you.
Be kind, be gentle, be fierce, everyone, whatever that looks like to you. And if that is just that you woke up and you brushed your teeth, congratulations. Well done, my friends. We were going to be doing a whole bunch more episodes this year. We committed to at least 2 a month. I wish me luck. Might end up being more than that. We have a bunch of guest hosts who will be coming in and taking over for me every once in a while. So you'll get some new perspectives. We do have a new series coming out on media and disability. So if you do not want the whole thing to be nerdy references, let me know what I should be watching, playing, and reading, because otherwise it's going to be Doctor Who. Just letting you know. It's going to be Doctor Who and Arcane. Tune in, say hi to us, and then I will have all links to Blind Redhead on the show notes.
All right. Thank you so much.